everybody. This is Kevin Davidson, your host for Kevin's Corner, real estate from a marketing perspective, and this is episode number 105. And yes, I say it almost every episode. The last couple, 105. I've been doing this for over 2.5 years. So if you've been watching my podcast, you subscribe, I really appreciate it. If you're a real estate agent or a vendor that operates in the Fort Bend County area and you want to be on the podcast, give me a call. 832-654-0527 or email me at kevin.davidson@stewart.com, and I'll be happy to put you on the podcast. I always start off the podcast by saying that I can't do the podcast if it wasn't for my team. Jennifer Smitus, Mike Snyder, Caitlin Cornick, Devaney Devon, Van Wynn, the escrow officers here in the Sugar Land office, and Grace Gallegos and Melissa Carrasco in the Richmond office, and everybody that works for us, our processors, assistants, front desk people, all you guys. I wouldn't have the podcast if it wasn't for you. So thank you very much. So let's get started with episode number 105. This is Mr. Hoge.
Yes, sir.
Say that right?
Brandon Hoge.
Brandon Hoge from
right.
Structured Foundation Repair.
Structured Foundation Repairs of Houston.
Awesome. Well, I'll let him tell you about it. So say hi to everybody.
How are you doing? Thanks for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So we're going to have, last week we had Mike Snyder, the new sales manager for Stewart Title. And this week we're going to have a vendor, Brandon over here. We're going to talk about foundation repair and foundations. And it's a big part of the real estate industry. It's a big part of buying and selling a home. And once you get into the house, it could be a big expense in the future. I know I was lucky enough to, when I purchased my house, it had already had foundation repairs. So every time I think I need it looked at, I just call them and they come out and it doesn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
It's under a warranty.
Good warranty. Yeah, that's good.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit just about Structured Foundation Repair of Texas?
Sure. So what we do, we're the guys specific to real estate. When a listing agent or a buyer's agent has an inspector come into the house, maybe it's a listing and a buyer's inspector comes in and they flag something on the house regarding the foundation. We're the guys that come in and we'll measure it up and measure not only a footprint of the house, but we're going to take a floor elevation survey as well, and we're going to document all the stress signs that we see in the house. Stress signs being the things that may indicate that there's a foundation problem. And then we'll determine if there is a problem or not, and how much work needs to be done, where we need to put that work, how that's going to be done, and the cost of doing that work, and any options that you may have regarding said work or payments, things like that.
So when someone, first of all, I've seen guys come into my house and they literally put a level on the floor.
Like a bubble level?
Yeah, bubble level.
Okay.
Is that a good way to determine if there's an issue?
That's not a very good way. It's something that can be used. Don't get me wrong. There are people out there that can use a bubble level and make an assessment. I could do that to a degree. I just don't get any data regarding the elevations by using a bubble level. Rather, what we use is a tool called a zip level, or the generic term for a zip level would be a CompuLevel, and it's a machine. Those of you that have been through this process, I'm sure some have and some haven't. It's the yellow machine that has a cord and a meter that's attached to it. And so what we do is we set up a reference spot somewhere in the house, usually somewhere towards the middle, but it's really an arbitrary spot. Could be anywhere. And we're able to take that meter across the slab, and it'll give us data points, or it'll give us elevations for any specific location that we place that meter. So I'll be able to tell within 1/10 of an inch how high or low the floors are relative to that reference spot.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And then what we'll do is we'll compare that to any stress signs that we have on the house. We'll look for deviations in that pattern of elevations, whether those deviations are downward, meaning settlement, or sometimes upward, which is, upheaval, something you don't commonly associate with a foundation problem necessarily.
Right.
But it is, and there's various reasons that you get that too, and that has to be dealt with as well.
You mentioned, I think you said stress points.
Stress signs.
There you go, signs. Sorry, I wasn't listening. What are examples of stress signs?
Good question. Stress signs would be things like cracks in the brick,
Okay.
separation between window frames, door frames in the brick, freeze board separations.
What's a freeze board?
A freeze board is going to be those fascia boards that come together at the corners of your house, below the soffit and above the brick.
Oh, okay.
Those are the freeze boards. So if the wall is settling, for example, it's going to push those boards out and it's going to separate them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll look for that. We'll look for, cracks in the drywall or cracks in the tile. If there's doors that are out of square, doors that stick. Now, we don't always have doors that stick when we have a foundation
Mm-hmm.
problem. It's going to depend on the severity of the problem. And, we'll get problems on a spectrum. I mean, I see everything from there's absolutely no problem here, why am I even here?
Here, yeah.
To, hey, have you priced out demolition on this house?
Yeah, exactly.
Before I go into how much repair this is going to require.
Yeah.
That is very rare. I haven't had that come up more than a handful
There was
of
actually
times
a
in
house
years.
next door to mine where I'm living now that almost got demoed
Because
because
of the foundation?
it was. I mean, it was
Oh, yeah.
it was bad.
Yeah, those are usually going to be the ones that are constructed without reinforcement in the concrete,
Mhm.
which we see every now and again. You're not going to see it very often, but it's those, if you've ever seen a driveway or an old maybe 1950s build with a detached garage,
Mhm.
and you get those chunks of concrete that separate, they'll separate by 2 inches, and you've got one piece of concrete that's 3 inches above the next, and
Mhm.
that means that there's nothing holding that concrete together.
Right.
And you can imagine when you build a slab like that and it cracks and it starts cracking up like one of those old driveways or something
Mhm.
like that, there's just not much I can do with that. And,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm looking at them going, yeah, I can't really do anything with it.
Yeah.
It's just too cracked up and too unreinforced.
So, what when you well, first of all, how much? Back when I bought my house in 2004, we'll talk about different types of piers, but a pier was $250.
Okay. Uh-huh. That
What are
sounds
they
about right.
now?
So it depends. It depends on who you're using.
Of course.
The thing about foundation repair, the dirty little secret about foundation repair that people don't necessarily know is that it's an unregulated business, right?
Mhm.
Or an unregulated industry. And so there is no law, for example, that requires us to employ the crew members, for example, or carry Texas workers' comp on them, or a whole host of things. There's no set rule as to how you install a pier.
Mhm.
Now, we might be bound by, we have our projects engineered, so we might be bound by what an engineer will or will not certify.
Right.
And in terms of just the pure engineering or in order to get a permit and things like that, we'll be bound by that. But by and large, there's no regulation. So that means that you have a bunch of different companies that operate completely differently, right? They're like snowflakes. They're all going to be a little bit different. And so you're going to have some that do carry that insurance, and that's what you need to ask when you're trying to find a good foundation repair company. Are you insured? Are you bonded? Do you employ the crew members? Are they covered by Texas workers' comp?
Hey, I had not to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
I had a company come out and cut down 2 pine trees, and I wouldn't let them set foot on my property. The first thing I asked him was, "Do you have
You
insurance?"
have insurance? Yeah, because
But it falls on my house.
it's a risk, and
Yeah.
so is foundation repair. I mean, we've had guys with smashed elbows. I think I've had 2 guys actually lose a finger. Everything from spider bites to other injuries. So it's dangerous work. It's highly risky, and you don't want to be liable if somebody gets hurt on your property. That's why
Right.
that company needs to be insured. But then to answer your previous question, that is going to play into the big difference between companies that are really cheap and companies that are really expensive.
'Cause-
And you do have companies that have a very large marketing budget, for example. You can see their name at the ballpark and stuff like that, and that's all fine and great. But needless to say, that costs a lot of money. And who's going to pay for that? Well, the customer's going to pay for that.
Of course.
And that makes sense, but they're going to be a lot more expensive. But whereas you've got the guys that are, they operate out of a pickup, they're not insured, they're not bonded, they're going to be a lot cheaper. We tend to be sort of right in the middle of that spectrum.
Right in the middle. So talk to us about the different types of leveling your house, or more specifically piers?
The different types of piers.
Yeah.
So there's basically 3 HUD, FHA, and VA approved methods of piering a house. That means methods that a third-party engineer can sign off on. And that would be what's called, I always refer to it as a drilled pier. Here in the Houston market, most people will refer to it as a bell-bottom pier. Also a drilled pier, but a form of drilled pier would be a bell-bottom pier. The second method of repair would be a steel pier. And the third method, and most frequently used method, most economical method really, is the concrete pressed piling. The oldest method is going to be that drilled pier, that bell-bottom pier. We don't find that those are the best. They're not as well warranted as the other 2 methods that I mentioned. They do have some practical uses in certain cases. For example, if I have a old 1930s construction, maybe it's a concrete grade beam, which would just be the concrete around a crawl space of an older house, and maybe that concrete is not holding up very well. Well, I can't use a hydraulic ram I can't use that beam. That concrete is leveraged to drive something into the ground, so I have to build something up to it. So that would be an appropriate use of the drilled pier. But for most cases where we have strong, sturdy, properly reinforced concrete, a 1970s build, a 1980s build, a 1990 slab, or whatever the case may be, and older as well, but we need to use that as a leverage to drive something into the ground, and these are the piers that we can warranty better. Now, steel, we usually recommend in a sandy or rocky soil, or in big industrial situations. A concrete pressed piling, which utilizes 1 foot by 6 inch in diameter cylinders of concrete that have a hole running through the middle of it, so we can reinforce it or align it, which is, I can't stress the importance of that, because a lot of companies don't do that. But these we're typically using under your normal residential properties in a clay soil. And that's the most frequent kind. And the latter 2 we can warranty for the life of the house.
Why the difference? What's the difference, other than, I'm trying to answer the question.
It's okay.
Why would I want to use a steel versus a concrete?
So I'm glad you asked. In the case of a normal residential property sitting on a clay soil, you can use either one. You're only going to pay a lot more for the steel pier. But I do have some people that they just want steel, or somebody, another company has come out, because there are companies that pitch steel. That's their shtick. That's what they do, is they do steel. And so they tell you all the reasons why not to get a concrete pressed piling apparatus. But that's being disingenuous. If that concrete pressed piling is placed appropriately, i.e. it's aligned. But you're really, in a case like that, only paying more for the steel pier. If I'm not recommending, or one of my guys isn't recommending a steel pier, you don't need it. Because believe me, we'll make more on a steel pier. So we stand to make more, but we're not going to try to sell you a steel pier if you just don't need a steel pier. That said, some people want them, but the concrete pressed piling will function just as well as a steel pier in a clay soil. If it's appropriately aligned, that means there's steel rebar running through the middle of that pier and keeping it aligned so that we can drive it, from moving apart, so that we can drive it to a true refusal point, to the deepest point that we can physically get it to go, and so that they don't fall apart up at the top after we're finished, and after the pier's under the ground and the ground swells and shrinks around it. We don't want it to collapse, which is what we see with the unaligned systems that are so prevalent in the Houston market.
So back when I was in property management, I worked for a company to where they also did fix and flips. And one of the things that they encouraged their employees to do, which is something I took advantage of, was if I could find a house that needed to be fixed and fit our numbers business model, they would buy it, and then I would manage the rebuild, or they fix the property. And then when we put it on the market and sold it, I would get a percentage of I did all the work to manage it. They just put their money. You know what I'm saying? Reason I'm telling you the story is
I
because
think I know where this is going.
we got a house in Baytown, and the foundation ended up being a lot more damaged and a lot more money than we ever thought when we bought it. And I walked into the house one day going to check up on the work, and they actually had to not only do piers on the outside of the house, they had to do some piers inside underneath the house. And I walked into this house, and it looked like I went from the front yard to the backyard when I walked into the house because there was no floor.
Oh,
There was
my.
piles of dirt inside the living room all over the house.
No floor, or it just looked like Swiss cheese, which had holes in it.
Okay, Swiss cheese. Well, we ended up replacing the floor anyway, but yes. Yes, Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out. 2 weeks later, when they finished it and we remodeled the house, I came in, couldn't even tell there was any foundation repair done.
Yeah.
But so I guess my point or my question is, why would you need to go inside the house and tear up the flooring to get underneath it instead of just the outside of the house?
Okay. So interior piers are necessary when you need leverage on the inside of the house to lift the outside. So I don't want to get too technical and talk over, everyone's head, but when we take an elevation survey, for example, let's say 3/4 of that survey, just imagine a square, okay? That's the footprint of your house. And imagine that 3/4 of that square measures, let's say, within a 1/2 inch. And let's say that you have one corner of the square that measures 3.5 inches down. And we go, maybe 8 or 10 feet away, just going at an angle from that corner into the square. And let's say 8-10 feet away, we're 2.5 inches down. And then we go another 10 feet and we're 1/2 inch down. Looking at that survey, and I'm going to have to assess the stress on the house as well. But looking at that survey, I'm assuming in most cases that the house was probably constructed within about 1/2 inch of that reference spot. One, higher than the reference spot or lower, but one way or the other, very general pattern. And then I'm assuming based on the stress and based on the deviation of that pattern, that corner that we just talked about has settled. So if I put piers just simply on the exterior of that corner of the square, I can only lift it about an inch. So I can only lift it about to that 2.5 inch variance that's about 8 or 10 feet away. Whereas if I put a pier in the middle and I put those, where that 2.5 inches down measurement is, and I have piers around the outside of that corner, that gives me leverage to be able to lift the inside where it's closer to 1/2 inch down, and thereby being able to lift the outside.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's all about leverage and the amount of the circumference around that post or that pier that will impact the slab, if that makes sense. Because there's only a certain circumference around the pier that pier will impact.
Right. And is it very common to have to go on the inside of the house and put piers?
It is common, and there's two ways to do that. You can go through the house and create Swiss cheese, like you talked about.
Yeah.
Or you can tunnel as well. The difference is tunneling is a lot more expensive. You can imagine the amount of labor. You literally have guys that dig a hole and they're just going under your house and they're digging, and the soil has to wind up on the outside. So they're and they're taking turns. You'll have one guy go in there and dig until he's tired. He'll get out. They'll rotate. Another guy will start digging. And they'll keep doing that.
And you have to avoid piping underneath the house.
You do. That's usually going to be kind of overhead when they're digging a tunnel, so they can usually work around that.
Okay.
But yeah, that is a consideration. You want to watch out for that stuff.
And typically when you guys have to do inside the house, the flooring is not covered as part of the...
It's not. Now we will fill or patch the slab so that there's concrete to replace the concrete that we had to go through. So we'll patch up the slab. That way you can put a nice floor inside, but we don't do the flooring. We leave that to the flooring
So
guys.
you'd have to get new flooring put down?
You'd have to get new flooring if we're going to go through the floors. Usually the way that winds up, if I have a house, let's say, I don't know, a typical KB home or DR Horton home or something like that. The chances of them having real expensive floors in there, probably, not very much. And so they'll usually opt to go through the interior because it's going to be less expensive and it's going to be a lot quicker for us to do the job. If I've got a house in River Oaks, let's say, and they've got hardwoods in there that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, they probably aren't going to want us to go through the floors, and they can probably afford to have us just tunnel to those locations. And so that's the difference typically.
So you work with real estate agents, right? You work with brokerages?
Work with a lot of them.
So do you have any kind of a program for real estate agents or anything how do you work with real estate agents?
So that's a great question that I'm glad you asked, because for you real estate agents out there, the main thing when you're dealing with foundation repair for you and your clients is that you want to make foundation repair a selling point for the house that you're listing. Or if you've got buyers, you want to make it a selling point for the house that they're buying, because one day you're probably going to get the listing on that house. Maybe 10 years later you'll be listing it, and you want that repair to be a selling point for the house. This is one of the things I teach a class to real estate agents, and if y'all are interested, you can certainly call us. We can set that up for you. We don't even charge for the class, and you get CE credit for it too. But anyway, in the class, that's the first thing that we cover. We talk about making it a selling point. And the way that we do that is that we include the engineering that I talked about beforehand, even in cases where we don't need it for any legal reasons to pull a permit or something like that. We'll include that engineering in there so that a guy like me can come into that house and look at it 10 years after the repairs were done. Maybe it's being listed and maybe I'm out there looking at it for a buyer, and I can see what they did, and I can see what it looked like before and after they did it. Whereas normally when I go into a house for just say a buyer again, and the buyer's agent will say, well, the homeowner had work done, a year ago. And I'll say, okay, great. Where's the paperwork? 99% of the time they've got absolutely nothing. And I'm left guessing at what they did. And I will tell, the buyers or the buyer's agent, I'll say, well, look, it looks like some work was done in this location. But in this location, you meet 3 criteria. You've got a deviation in the elevation pattern. You've got stress to accompany it, cracks, separations, things like that. And you've got numbers that are beyond the American Society of Civil Engineers guideline. And so basically there are exceptions to that, but basically you meet 3 criteria for having a foundation problem in that location. And I'll say, look, to be fair, this might be where they put the house, but I don't know, because I can't see what they did, and I can't see what it looked like before and after they did it. So that's why we set this up specifically for real estate professionals, so that they will have a better time selling the house. Because when I ask at the beginning of all of my classes, how many of you have had to deal with a listing or a house that your buyers are looking at that's had foundation repair, and a handful of them will raise their hands. And I'll say, of those of you that have dealt with that, how many of those where the repairs are done, how many times has it been a selling point? And they'll all shake their head. Never has been. And I'll say, wouldn't it be great if when you did this foundation repair, something that nobody wants to do, but they have to do it. Wouldn't it be great if it was a selling point, so that you can say as the listing agent or a buyer's agent that, hey, this is technically better off than the day it was built, because it has a warranty, it has a lifetime transferable warranty, and you're never going to have to pay for any adjustments to this foundation again, and at least in the area that was worked on.
And here's the paperwork. And
here's we can tell what they did, who did it, what it looked like before they did it, and what it looked like after they did it. So I come in 10 years and go, I see what it looked like after they did it. It looks like it's holding up. When I have that, it's great. And
that's what you're there for.
Yes, sir.
So he works with brokerages and real estate agents. You also teach CE classes. You've taught one for me.
Yes, sir.
And I got a lot of great feedback on that.
Thank you.
And you're going to be teaching another one for me in the next month or so, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
It's on the calendar, by the way.
Okay. I know we've had a cut. Yeah,
We had one we had to cancel because
Okay.
I got called to a 2-day corporate
I
meeting.
saw your training.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I
Understand.
can't argue with corporate.
No,
So.
I wouldn't
But
expect that.
so tell everybody how to get a hold of you.
Thank you. So to get a hold of us, you can call us at 832-230-5490. That's 832-230-5490. You can also visit us on our website at structuredhouston.com. And there's a call to action on there where you can fill out your information on there. And that will go to our friendly staff, and they will pick up the phone, give you a call. They'll get the address information. They'll get, all the contact information that we need, and they'll schedule something for you. We can usually get out there between 24, 48 hours, and let us know if you have a quick closing coming up or an option period. That's
Don't leave
looming.
any information out and then get
Yeah.
mad at them later.
Yes, don't do that.
Do you have an email address?
I do. It's you can, if you want the general email, you can email info@structured. That's structured with an ed Houston.com, or my personal email, if you want to email me, is BHOGE. That's B as in Brandon, HOGE as in Hoge, my last name, bhoge@structuredhouston.com.
And last but not least, can they find you on social media anywhere?
They can find us on social media.
Which
Yes,
one?
Structured Houston.
For Facebook, Instagram? Which
Facebook,
one?
Instagram. Yep.
Okay.
Both.
Awesome. Give them the phone number one more time.
Okay, it's 832-230-5490.
All right, guys. So anybody that knows me knows that if a vendor is supporting my classes, coming to my events, on my podcast, if I needed their services, I would hire them myself. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. So give Brandon a call if you need foundation repair, if you need something checked out, you're not sure about something, if you're an agent and it's part of the deal, and it would help to have someone like Brandon come look at the foundation and or help you get the deal over the finish line. Give him a call and let him come out. Let him give you his evaluation and help you get that deal over the finish line and get it sold or bought, whatever it is. Give him the phone number one more time.
Okay, 832-230-5490. And yeah, you hit on something there. We can help you close deals. I've helped agents close deals even when we didn't do any work on
There
the
you go.
house. So we will help you with that.
Yeah, it's a resource for you guys. So don't be afraid to give him a call. So Brandon Hoge from Structured Foundation of Texas.
Structured Foundation Repairs of Houston.
I'm sorry, Structured Foundation Repairs of Houston.
That's okay. Close
Should have
enough.
did
We're
my
in
homework,
Texas.
but I would have got it wrong anyway. So I appreciate you being
Yeah.
on the podcast. This has been episode number 105 of Kevin's Corner, Real Estate from a Marketing Perspective. And again, if you are an agent or a vendor and you want to be on the podcast, give me a call, 832-654-0527. And thank you to everybody that I work with. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. And I always say, if you are a real estate agent and you need title and you don't use Stewart Title, shame on you. I got a list. I got your phone number. I'll call you.
And Kevin, I want to thank you.
appreciate it.
You're fantastic to work with. A great guy here.
I appreciate it. I do my best.
Yes, you do. You do
You
great.
guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.